All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the VidCast with no name. My very first guest for my very first VidCast is someone that I respect with all my heart. I love him to death. He's been one of my mentors since I was very little. Not only is he my uncle, but he also shares my birthday. So I thought, who better to launch my, not just my YouTube channel, but my very first video than my uncle himself, Sal De La Rosa. So they got you up and walking around already?
Yeah, already. Yesterday yesterday was one of my last PT physical therapy meetings and sessions and stuff, and so they work you out. They work you out a lot, and it's crazy. But they had me walking with this for about a week already. And then at first I was with a walker. And then, even then, man, so I think about a week ago, which was, Thursday, a week ago, I was at the doctor's and I was still in a walker. So then, like Monday, they started me on this thing. And then yesterday, the main PT guy came in and he said, I want to see you walk without a cane. And I was like, what? And he says, yeah, I want to see you walk without a cane. And I was like, okay. And So sure enough, here I am. I'm walking, and I was like, hey, it felt really good because it feels strong. It doesn't feel like all the way strong, but it feels strong.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, there's things that I'm doing now that I hadn't been able to do in over 30 years. Since
Really?
my knee. Yes. Like I'm able to do squats.
No.
Yes, I'm able to squat, and on like Monday, the girl told me, she says, all right, we're gonna do some squats, and I was like, wait, hold it, you don't know me. This knee.
Wait, what do you mean by squat?
And by squats, we're talking what? Like,
so you're asking me to move. That's what you're saying. That's what you want me to do.
Yeah, and so so then so she says, no, we're gonna do squats. So they took me in front of the kitchen sink, and she said, just grab a hold of the sink, and I want you to squat as low as, put your feet shoulder length, and I want you to squat as far as you can. And I was like, no, I haven't squatted in over 30 years.
Yeah.
And so she says, well, this is different. You have a new knee. You have a totally new knee. So sure enough, man, I started squatting, and I was like, what? Yeah, wow. It's totally surprised me that I was able to squat down that low. So I'm excited. So I'm squatting, and she says, hold on, you're scaring me. And I was like, why? Because you're going so fast. You're going so fast. And I was like, because I'm excited. I'm excited that I haven't been able to do this in like forever. So I do it like 4 or 5 times a day, man. Anytime I'm in front of the sink, I was like, boom, grab it. I want to boom. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. So also one of the other things that is this knee, the bad knee, it wasn't able to straighten out. Like, you know how you straighten out your knee, and it's supposed to be straight like that. You just lock it. This knee wasn't able to lock at all. So it was always in a little, like almost, so I would walk, and I would almost walk with a little limp, because
it was always bent.
Always bent. I couldn't straighten it out at all. So when I first started walking, I would notice that it would lock back, and I felt like I was gonna, like it was gonna hyperextend, and I was gone. Yeah. It didn't hurt, but it just like, and I was like,
felt weird. It just felt weird.
It just felt weird.
It didn't hurt. It just feels weird.
It just feels weird, yeah. Yeah, so she says you're gonna have to get used to that, because your brain is so used to the way you used to walk, and your brain is sending signals to your leg that's not normal. The way you walk now is not normal. So your brain has to start recognizing that it's going to lock now to the back and it's going to be normal. Yeah. So sure enough, man, sure enough. So now I'm I'm used to, I'm not totally used to it, but I'm more like, okay, it locks and it locks. Still a little bit swollen, and they're still healing inside because it's like an 8-inch scar. It's like a big 8-inch scar right down the middle of the knee. So it's
so when they were doing the surgery, were you like fully awake or were you fully under?
No, I was knocked out. And then from the waist down, I was like paralyzed.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's freaky because they gave me a spinal injection, right? And they said, this is how we're going to do it. Spinal injection. So sure enough. All right. So then when I wake up, right? Because I wake up and I'm in the operating room. I'm in the table and I'm waking up and I'm strapped down like this, and so I'm waking up and I'm like trying to, and they say, okay, hold on, you're still here, we're finishing up, and I'm like, what do you mean you're finishing up? I'm thinking in my head, like, wait, what are you doing? You're finishing
what
up. What happened here? Why am I awake? And so they said, no, you're finishing up, and we're finishing up or whatever. All right, so they take me to the recovery room, right? Are we recording already?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So I'll be very excited about what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'll tell you in person.
Okay.
So anyway, so I am freaking out because once I get into the recovery, I'm barely getting up, right? I'm barely waking up, and I'm like, because it's just total dryness, man. The anesthesia.
Oh, man.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It just leaves you just like, yeah.
Yeah. So they brought me some water, ice water, and with a straw, and they said, don't drink too much yet. You're barely waking up. Okay. Well, I was trying. Once I kind of woke up and I knew where I was at, I was trying to move my feet and I couldn't move them at all.
Oh, and that's gotta be weird.
Like, that's it. I'm paralyzed. That's it.
Oh,
that's it.
man.
I'm paralyzed. I freaked out. I totally freaked out that, they said, okay, because they asked me, okay, so can you move your feet? And I was like, no. And they were like, so the anesthesia guy, he was a jokester, right? So he says, all right, so tell me if you can move your feet. And I was trying to move. He says, move them. And I was trying to move. He says, you should be able to move your feet by now. And I was like, wait. I said, I can't move them. He says, uh-oh. Okay, okay. Okay, try to move them. And I was like, I can't feel a thing. He says, oh, okay, that's normal. And I was like, what?
It's like, all right, get me out. I'm done. No.
I'm done. I don't want this knee anymore. I don't want it. I was like, kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? And this is not something I want to hear right now.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm like, God, are you kidding me? I don't want to hear that I'm paralyzed for the rest of my life. Because he looks at me like, try and move him. Try and move him. He says, okay, can you feel this? And he's touching me and I can't feel a thing. I can't feel jack, man. And then he says, and he looks at the nurse and the nurse looks at him and I see the nurse and the nurse is like, I don't know. Like, and I was like, what do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? So sure enough, he says, all right, that's normal. I'm just kidding. You'll be able to feel them once you're in your room. And so all this time when I'm in my room, I'm trying to move my feet. And then all of a sudden I start seeing this and I was like, okay, all right, I'm good.
Oh,
so like,
man.
Okay, I'm good with this. So, but no, it's getting better. It's getting better. I'm going to try to go out to Walmart today, just to move around a little bit. I'm going to try to go get one of those leg sleeves, the little compression sleeves for the whole leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go see maybe at Academy or one of those, Walmart, whatever, just for compression. That's all it is. But other than that, man, I'm like, I see the light already. I am 5.5, almost, this next Wednesday will be 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been already 6 weeks. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's gone like this.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, super. It's gone.
So this whole time, I mean, other than, you know, being quarantined, this whole time you've just been stuck there at home?
At home.
That's got to be like extremely hard for you, because I know you're like super active. You love to be around, going places.
Yes. And
man.
So I would share with the physical therapy people, and I would tell them, you know, I'm very active, you know, and I just want, you know, progress. I want to see progress. And she says, hold on, take your time, because you're going to see progress in all of this. You're going to see it. Maybe not right now. He says, but you're going to have to pay the price first. And she says, this is literally the only situation that I know where they say no pain, no gain, because you have to have pain in order to be able to see the gain. And so sure enough, you know, but during the day, the majority of the time, so I get up, they put me on this machine called the CPM machine, which is a machine that bends your knee. It bends your knee and then straightens it out. Bends your knee and straightens it out.
So it does it for you, or you have to force it?
No. It does it for you. So it just gradually does it for me, and then goes back. So anyway, so in the morning at about 7 a.m., 6:30, I'll get on it just to warm up my knee. So I had it for about maybe almost a month. The machine for almost a month. It warms your leg up and stuff, and then so then I get up, and then I have to come and do exercises, do my own. So I have to bend, and because what they wanted was the way they measure is range of motion. So to bend, to straighten it, I have to have a 0 degree, meaning it's just straight.
Straight, yeah.
Straight, and to bend it, I had to reach 125.
Oh wow.
Back, 125 degrees back. So I was barely, like, when I first started, I was barely like at 70. And I was like, God, man, I have a long way to go. So sure enough, man. So every morning, so I do those like 3 times a day. So that was one of the things that helped me out, was the fact that I would have to be doing exercises all the time. Going on the machine, let it stretch you out and whatever. Go do your exercises and stuff. So that filled up a lot of my time during the day and even going into the nighttime. So it changed my routine. It totally changed. But yeah, you're talking, I was claustrophobic inside, you know. I was cabin fever, just seeing I would literally get a chair and just sit outside in the little patio that I have here, and just sit there for like half an hour.
Just to be outside,
Yes, and I still couldn't walk real well, but I'm sweating like buckets, and I was like, I don't care. I need to get vitamin D in me right now. You know, I need to get vitamin D. So sure enough, you know, and then I started seeing the progress. She says, the more you push it, the more you do it, the more pain you have, the better you're going to gain. So sure enough, yesterday was my final PT. I reached 0 on my extension and 131 in my bending. So yeah, so all of that pays, you know, it pays. And so now I'm able to walk here and there, you know, without a cane. Like if I need to go to the restroom or whatever, I can do it without a cane. But she says, you know, it's okay. Go ahead, you know, walk a little bit. But as soon as you feel tired or strained or whatever, then, you know, get your cane and start walking with it. So, but yeah, I am glad that I'm closer to that end than I am to this end.
Yeah. So now, okay. So before the surgery, what would you say, like your range of mobility and your actual use, like a scale of 1 to 10, how much use did you have on that leg?
Probably on my leg, man, my right leg, which is my good leg, was the one that would carry the most weight. And I'm so glad that nothing serious happened to this one where I need a knee replacement on that. I would say that when they first measured me, my range on this, as far as extension was concerned, was probably I think he said was a 10. So I still needed 10 degrees to straighten out. So 10, I couldn't straighten it out. To bend back, I was probably at 115, 110. So I really couldn't bend a whole lot. So
you like, I mean, your leg was good enough for you to stand and walk, but like as far as like range, mobility, flexibility, nothing. It was just.
Yeah. So when I would go upstairs, I was hitting bone on bone as it was already. Yeah, I was hitting bone on bone. And you know how the knee goes like this?
Yeah.
Mine was like this.
Ooh.
Yeah, mine was like this. And so it was already hitting, and that's why it would give, because it wasn't bending or it wasn't straightening. So it was like this. So when I would walk, all of a sudden it would just give.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was but yet about 3 years ago when I went to El Salvador, I climbed up a volcano. I did a hike up a volcano, 6 hours to go up and 6 hours coming down. Yeah. So can you imagine doing that with a bad knee?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So my range of motion was horrible, but I lived like that for all these years, and it just progressively got worse and worse.
So I know now you're recovering, and so little by little you're going to be getting better and better and better. But as of right now, can you tell that there's like a complete difference?
Oh yeah.
Like, and you know, projected in the future, do you feel like you're going to have much more range and mobility?
Oh yeah, totally. Because I feel my knee very stable, very strong on the sides and in the front and everything. I mean, it's just, I can feel it. I feel the cushion before I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the cushion. I just felt bone. And now I feel the cushion. Yeah. I can feel the little boom, boom, like a little zin, zin, like a little spring in there. Yeah. I can tell the difference.
That's
awesome. Good. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I still have months to go to be able to get to that point. So all the swelling comes down. So I have to ice it and then put a little bit of heat on there, ice it and put a little heat. So kind of almost have a little regimen already going, as far as what to do. So yeah, but it's a journey. There's a lot that I learned through this. Patience is one of them. Patience is just one of the biggest. Learning to listen, because sometimes I'm in such a hurry that I'm able to speak to the Lord a whole lot more. I don't want to be hyper spiritual about. I don't want to be hyper spiritual about it, but I was able to listen to God and listen to so many things about what for future, for near future, for just my life and everything. To value a lot of things. It was an amazing journey, not just for stability in my knee, but also for stability in my own personal and spiritual life and my work and everything. It was an amazing journey, and it's still gonna continue. And so I'm really looking forward to whatever's up ahead. Yeah. Good. It's good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, the sign of a true pastor, I think, is taking everyday, experiences or everyday problems that you go through and applying it to your everyday life. And I think that's, one thing that I find that you do really well. And so I think that this is like the best spot where we can actually go into what I wanted to do. You said something a little while ago that it hit me. And right away, I don't know if you noticed, I grabbed my notepad and I started writing it down. But you said progress takes time. And the more pain you have, the better it is, or the better progress you have. Yeah. And so with that, I kind of want to start with what I want to focus on is that, what in your past helped you reach the accomplishments you have now, or the goal that you have set now. But if you can just kind of help me out and start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are. For those of you, I know you, of course. But maybe for those that are watching that have no idea who you are, maybe have never really, they know you, but they don't actually know you. Sure. So if you can just kind of just share a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a home where my dad, ever since I could remember, he was a pastor. And even before I was born, he was a pastor. And I have 4 other siblings. I have two older sisters. My older sister is Esther, and then it's Becky, and then an older brother, Eddie, and then it's myself, and then my younger brother, David. So we were 5 in the home. And I was born in Crystal City, Texas, and my dad was already a pastor there. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a pastor there for about 9 to 10 years. So I was born towards the end of those years, and then 2 years or 3 years later, my brother David, and then we moved to San Angelo. Anyway, so I grew up in a home where, the gospel was preached, and, church was on a weekly basis. Sundays, Sunday nights, Wednesdays, there was prayer meetings and stuff. So I grew up knowing all of that and seeing all of that. And as time went on, and, we grew up, you just see, you get to know more and more about the Lord, and you start seeing, the little things that make a difference in a ministry. Very observant in so many things, and you see those things. As far as when you talked a little bit about difficulties and stuff, I remember, even growing up, and we would go into the refrigerator, and you open it, right? And you're a kid, and you just want something to drink or something to eat or whatever, and you open it, and you hear crickets in there, because even the crickets aren't even there, because there's nothing in there.
Like, there's nothing here. I gotta go.
There's nothing here. I'm out. Yeah. So, but you see things like that, and those things stay recorded and in your mind and stuff. So anyway, you grew up, but I never ever heard my parents ever complain about things, and say, we never have, or my mom would make things happen, would make miracles happen in the kitchen. As long as we had beans, sopita, fideo, papita, tortillas, man, we were happy campers. I mean, that's it. You just roll up a little tortilla and start dipping it in the beans. There it is. So I grew up in that kind of home. Anyway, as time went on, my dad went to a couple of churches, until we finally got to Robstown, where, my adolescent years started happening. I was about 13, 14 when we got to Robstown. And that's basically where, everything started to come together for me in my Christian walk with the Lord. Again, I grew up in a Christian home, but, you start seeing things, but you don't have that relationship with Him. You go to children's church and you do this and that, but you don't have that relationship. And it wasn't until I got to Robstown when I became a teenager, and, you start making these decisions in your life. You start making decisions in your life that are going to affect the rest of your life. And so at the age of 14 was when I first accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. And immediately, when I accepted Christ into my life, into my heart, there was a little nudge inside of me that there was, how when you first get saved and you want to tell the world, I mean, I'm saved and everything. You just want to tell the world, and your life has changed. I was 14, but I felt this certain nudge that I didn't think much about it, but I felt this little nudge of a calling. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I felt this little nudge of you're called. You're called. And it seemed as though from the time that I was 14 till the time that I eventually went to Bible school after college, and I went to Bible school, that I felt it. So there was a long period of time, a period of about maybe 6-7 years, that I felt that calling, but always running away from it, because I remembered the crickets. I remembered all of those things, and I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to go through the little, even though I loved it, the papitas and the frijolitos and the fideo and all of that. But, you always say, I want a better life.
Yeah.
I want a better life. I want to do. So sure enough, I felt the calling, and there were so many times that, when people or evangelists come to your church, and the Lord uses them in word of knowledge or wisdom or prophecy or whatever, and you're like,
I know where you're going.
Yeah, and there was no way that I could make an excuse to say, oh, I'm not going to church today because I have homework or I'm sick or whatever. Those were the ones, and sure enough, you try to hide within the congregation and stuff, and then they'll find you, and then they'll point you out and say, come, and it was always the word of, the Lord has a calling for you. And it was always pulpit ministry that they would tell me, and it was always pulpit ministry. And I would always say, but that's not what I want. I would always say it inside me. And I would cry because I knew that I should have, and that was what I needed to do, but it wasn't something that I said yes to at the moment. So I ran away from the Lord for a while, through college and stuff. And, even after high school and through college and stuff, I just ran away. And I thought to myself, well, and I got to a point where I said, if I dirty myself, then God won't choose me. God will say, you know what, go. So when you talk about those difficult times, those were the difficult times. My high school years, my running away, my this and that, and my college years of running away and dirtying myself enough to be able to say, if I'm dirty, God is just going to say, I don't want this dirty, vessel.
Yeah.
When all this time, he says, I'll take a dirty vessel. I'll take it because I'm the one that's going to clean it up, and I'm going to make it into something shiny. Wow. I'm going to make it into something great.
Yeah, I can relate to that because, I experienced, and I went through that exact, same thing, that exact same situation. I call it the Jonah movement, where, you're called to a specific area and you're both afraid and angry that why there? Why am I sent there? Why, God, do you want me to go in that direction? And so you go the complete opposite, thinking he's never going to find me.
Yeah, definitely.
And wow, like that's so crazy.
Yeah. So, and it's so funny how you mentioned the Jonah movement, because I'm going to get there, and okay. It's so good. I'm going to get there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun there.
No. But it's good because I don't think I've ever shared this story with you, and it correlates really good with what you just said.
Wow, cool.
So finally, after college, I said, all right. I was at a youth camp. And I remember Brother Moses Cavazos, which he was our DYD at the time, Brother Moses. And I was at the altar, doing my part as far as playing the game. And you raise your hands, you cry, you become this holy guy where you're praying with your friends and you're doing all of this, when I'm the one that God is dealing in my heart. So he calls me out and he says, Sal, come here. And I thought he was going to tell me something, like go and help me with this guy or whatever. So he calls me and he says, the Lord is calling you to pulpit ministry. And I was like, kidding me. Are you kidding me? So he said, and this is what he said. He says, and he's saying, and he's telling me to tell you that this is your last opportunity. And I was like, what are you talking about? Am I going to die or what? And so he said, this is your last opportunity. And I was like, what? So right there and then, man, I had to just say, this is it. I'm going. So I finally said yes after so many years and stuff. And then so my brother Eddie at the time, he went to Bible school as well. The calling, I didn't know. We came home and I went to talk to my dad, and I told him that I was going to go to Bible school. I had no idea where I was going to go. And so my dad was thinking Magdiel, because that's where he graduated from, Matamoros, and Magdiel in Matamoros. Not knowing that a couple of hours later, Eddie came and talked to my dad the same conversation about. And so Eddie came to me and he said, man, we can go to the same, Bible school together, and we can, minister together. We can do this. And I just didn't feel the calling to go to Magdiel, to Mexico. Eddie did. Eddie was like gung-ho. I want to go to Magdiel. I want to just rough it out and do all of this. And I was like, I don't know, man.
It's a little too extreme.
It's a little too extreme, yeah. But the doors opened where I was able to go to Bethel. to the Bible Institute there at Bethel, and there was a tremendous, and I see all the benefits of it now. I see all of the how God just had everything planned out, as I went to Bethel, and I had the opportunity to be able to the doors open and the opportunity to be able to stay with my sister Becky and Rick, and you were a little tiny wee little boy like this big,
Just that big,
and so like this big, yeah. And so those were great times, where that opportunity was opened up to be able to do that. Was part of a great youth ministry that was there. Little did I know that two people that were going to come into my life that are of such a great impact in my spiritual and my ministry life, which were my brand new youth pastors that came into Bethel, which were Raymond and Lupe Portillo. They are now in El Paso, which that's where they were from. Anyway, they came into my life, and I just automatically just gravitated to them. I went exactly to them. They became, even though we're exactly in that same age range, but they became like my spiritual parents.
Wow.
Because and they were just barely beginning in ministry as well. And I was in my first years in Bible school. I love them, and still to this day, I have a close relationship with them, and would spend hours and hours, at their home, just family. Family to me. And it wasn't until, and so part of a great youth ministry that was just thriving. I mean, that ministry was thriving there at Templo Bethel. It was just, wow, it was exploding. Now, I'd love to be a part of that. I would help them in the youth. I would help them I would preach with, some of the time there with them. And I would spend some time with them at the office. I would call it a little internship with them. And anyway, it wasn't until I finished my second year in Bible school that I got a call from a brother in Mission, Brother Ruben Robles, which I love him and his wife, Donna. And they gave me he asked me if I wanted to go preach at their church, right? And I said, sure. I shared with my friend Raymond, and he said, hey, go. So sure enough, I went. I go into the room where it was like a little Sunday school classroom, and there was about 4 or 5 kids in there, and along with that, added with the youth leader that they had, and the majority of the kids that were there were leaders. There was about 5, and so he said, well, whenever you're ready to start. And I was like, well, let's wait for everybody else to get here. And they told me, no, this is it. This is everybody. And I was like, what? And I was like, I mean, you're used to the almost 200 kids at Bethel, and it was like, what, and but it was like, okay, this is it. So I preached the sermon. I'm not going to tell you that I remember the sermon, because I don't. But afterwards, the pastor comes in, because they had the main service was in the sanctuary. So he comes in and he says, so how did everything go? And I said, it was good. We went to Whataburger afterwards, and all the kids were there, and we talked and stuff. And then afterwards, he when I'm about to leave, he says, I want you to consider something. The reason why I asked you to come is because we're needing a youth pastor. And I'm thinking, oh man, okay. And he said, I want you to pray about it and consider, and here you are, the spiritual guy. And the first thing that you say is, of course I'll pray about it, right? Yeah. I'll pray about it. Never was it my intention to pray about it, because I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, because that's just, what you're used to saying. That's supposed to be, yeah.
That's what people are saying, hey, yeah, or the right thing to do. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the next day I go to the office with my youth pastors, and so he says, hey, how did it go? And I was like, it was good, I told him about the 5 kids and everything. He says, oh, wow, that was awesome. And he says, yeah, but the thing is, yeah, but he said, I couldn't believe what he asked me. And Raymond is just looking at me. And he says, I couldn't believe what he asked me, and I couldn't, when he says that he wants me to consider and pray about me being there at the church to be their youth pastor. And I kind of chuckled and laughed. And he said, why? And he says, why are you laughing? And I said, yeah, because he told me to pray about it, but I have no intention of going there, Raymond. And he says, why not?
Oof.
And I was like, because I love it here. You know, I love what's going on here. And I've always wanted to be a part of a youth ministry like this. And I started naming, you know, the size and the church, and I loved everything that was going on. There was activities always going on and stuff. And he says, and then he looks at me and he says, so then why are you here in Bible school then? I mean, straight up, he says, why are you here in Bible school then? And I was like, well, I mean, to learn from you all. And he says, yeah. Well, you've been with me already for like 2 years. You've been with me for about 2 years. Do you think that you've learned enough? And I was like, no, I still want to learn more or whatever. And he said, all right. He said, well, I want you to pray about it. So sure enough, a couple of days later, he comes up to me and he says, so hey, so did you pray about it? I mean, what have you been thinking? And I said, you know, Raymond, I really, really haven't prayed about it because I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. So then here comes the Jonah movement. Oof. Right? Here comes the Jonah movement. And he says, sit down. I want to share something with you. And I was like, okay. And he says, you're like, I've been praying about it, and you are the Jonah in my boat. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, yeah. He says, you are hiding away. You are hiding. You are hiding underneath, and you're like way out underneath in the boat, and you're hiding when God really wants you to be over there in mission, but yet you're hiding and you're just kind of mixing in and everything. And what you're doing is that you're rocking the boat. Oh. You're rocking the boat. Oh. You're rocking the boat. And he says, and I don't want to have to get you and throw you out. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Are you kicking me out of Bethel or what? What are you doing? He says, and I'll always remember that. I'll always remember the fact of, he says, you're the Jonah in my boat. He says, you can be of an impact in the lives of people. Yeah, you can be of an impact here at Bethel. He says, but this is, are you sure that this is where God wants you to be, when God really wants you to be somewhere else in another place? Doesn't mean that you can't come hang around here and come to our house. He says, it's not like we're never going to see each other again. Yeah. So that was the opportunity, and he prayed with me. He prayed with me, and he and his wife, and that was the first time that I had really, really, really ever prayed about it. And when I was praying there, I remembered when I first accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior at the age of 14, and I felt the little tug of a calling. I remembered as he was praying for me, and I said, this is what it meant. This is what it meant. Pulpit ministry, this is what it meant. Yeah. And that's where it all started. That afternoon, I called Brother Robles and I said, hey, all right, let's go. And that's where the journey began, you know, as far as ministry was concerned. Things that I've learned, man, I always say I feel for my first kids. I feel for them because they were in my schooling. They were a part of my schooling. And I kind of feel for them, but we had great times. I was probably there for about maybe 4 to 5 years, something like that, with them. Had great, and still to this day have really, really good relationships with some of them. Have kept up with them. You know, I've seen them minister. I've seen them, you know, be in ministry. One of the girls that was the youth leader back then, she is now a pastor of her own church. And I'm so proud of her, you know, that she is a pastor. And she came to our youth convention with her church this past year. Yeah, so it's just, it was amazing to be able to see that. And throughout the years, you're able to see all of these kids that were kids at the time. And after so many years after, you know, now they're parents, they're married, and some of them are even in ministry. Some are pastors in their own churches, and just so many. So it's just beautiful to be able to see as there was a lot of pain in between, but you'll see the progress in the pain. You'll see it, and you see it, and you see the growth, you see the growth and the walk, and those are things that I've thought a lot about. And it's so wonderful how this opportunity, that you gave me to be able to come here, and the conversations that we're having are the conversations that I've had with myself and the Lord, and I've reflected on ministry. I've reflected on so many things that are going on in my life right now. And it's just amazing how God orchestrates everything so perfectly. It's just beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've said that you've started off, with Bible school and with ministry, and you talked about the Jonah movement. You talked about your experience in the Jonah movement. After coming out of that, what was the progression? Where was it from where you started to where you are now? What was the progression that you went through?
Oh man, my love for young people has always remained, has always been there. When I first went to Bible school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. My first year, I remember a teacher. Her name was Becky Leal. I loved her. She was a tremendous Christian education teacher, and she asked us all the question of what we wanted in ministry, why we came to Bible school. We were all first years. We were about 40-some students in that class. They went around, and some of them were already pastors. Some of them said, I want to be an evangelist. I want to be a missionary. I want to be a teacher in Bible school, or I want to do this. And then they came to me, and I told them I really have no idea why I'm here and what I want to do. But then when Raymond and Lupe came into my life, and that's where my love for young people started. And it just went and went and went and went and went. And the progress is, happens when you invest time and passion and love and all of these things in the people that you're working in. Because sometimes what happens is that you do things just for the sake of doing them, but not for the sake of the cause, not for the sake of what is of the outcome. Man, you never know the hey, yeah, I'll give you a ride, or hey, yeah, I'll go pick you up, to come to church. Those are little things that you invest in the kids that they'll never, ever, ever, ever forget. Wow. I just had a situation that a group of kids that lived, when I was in Robstown, there was a group of kids that lived in Bishop, maybe like a 20-minute drive back and forth, maybe 30 to 40 minutes, going and coming 40 minutes just to come to church. And so I would go pick them up. And so it was Tuesday. And so after work, I would go pick them up, get dressed, and then go pick them up to come to church. And as I would, and to me, it didn't seem like a burden. I wanted them to come to church. I wanted them to learn. And it wasn't like that, not that long ago, that even the parents but some of the kids would tell me, man, we love you because you invested in that time to be able to come pick us up. And it was every Tuesday that you would come pick us up. And I was there for like maybe 9 to 10 years there in Robstown. And so they would tell me, you came to pick us up and you invested that time to listen to us. And in the conversations that, you don't think that the conversations that you have on the ride over there and on the ride back are going to make a difference, but they do. So that's what I'm saying, is that the investment that you make, the caring, the passion, the love that they're going to feel for you, that's what the progress is all about. Sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, we'll see you later. We'll see you next week. And then there's no connection. Yeah. And so as time went on, it was just the connection that you have with them. My dad would tell us something from way in the beginning when we first started Bible school, my brother Eddie and I. And he said this one thing. He said, you don't have to be the best preacher. He said, all you have to do is love them. You don't have to be the best. Good. That's good. He says, all you have to do is just love them. And that's basically it. That was all I did, is just love them. I loved all my kids. And, that was just, you invest that time. So you see the progress in that, and you see that in them, because a lot of these kids, all they need is just that love and that ear to listen to them, to be able to say, sometimes in their own home, they don't listen to them. There's really not a whole lot of love. and I'm not saying everybody, but you know, it's just time invested in them. Yeah.
You know, I've had the fortunate opportunity of having, you know, multiple pastors in my life that, you know, not are just, you know, aren't just pastors, you know, from the church, but also in my family. You know, my dad's a pastor, you're a pastor, my grandpa was a pastor, even, you know, your brothers, my uncles, Eddie, David, they're all pastors. And so I've had the opportunity of seeing so much leadership qualities. But one of the things that has always stuck by me is not the leadership role y'all have taken, but the mentorship and the investment that you've placed into your members, your youth, your people, that has inspired me now as a pastor, where that is like my main focus. Yeah, I can prepare a sermon every week. Yeah, you know, I can lead a group as much as I want, but if you're not investing in your sheep, then what's the point? You know, and that's one thing that I've learned from all of y'all is the investment. That's what builds the church, the investment. And I like that you touched about that, because, you know, as not only your nephew, and as not only, you know, someone that considers you like my second dad, you know, you've helped raise me, you've built me up, you've helped me grow. One thing that has always impacted me from you is how much you have invested into me. You know, even from when I was very, very little, you know, you would sit me there in the room and you'd pick up your guitar. You were the first one that inspired me to want to pick up music. You know, and then watching you, you know, when, you know, I remember when I was very little, you know, one of the things that we did one time is there in the kitchen table, we put together, it was a puzzle. And I remember on the puzzle, it was a keyboard with a palette with paint. And it had like I think it had like a canvas with an easel, and it had like fruit and stuff. It was just very beautiful, very colorful. And I remember that was the first time you told me that you drew, that you knew how to draw. Yeah. I was like, well, what do you mean? And so you started showing me some of your drawings and, you know, some of the things, and you told me that you went, you know, you took art and you went to art school, and you had all these drawings, and you opened your portfolio and you showed me some. And I remember that inspired me. Wow, I want to start drawing. And I remember I took up drawing. And then I remember you would teach me, you know, how to do, you know, draw lines, how to do shading, how to do angles, you know, and you invested in me. You could have just been like, oh yeah, that's nice, that's cool, and that's it. But no, you actually invested, and you nurtured the artistic side of me that to this day, you know, I still hold that dear to me, where I love that I'm a musician. I love that I'm a singer. I love that, you know, I'm an artist, I'm a graphic designer, all because of the investment that you put into me. And then to go on to one day, you know, now you're my youth pastor. You know, you were just my uncle at the time, and you invested in me that way. And then now you became my youth pastor, where I would work underneath you. I was inspired by your ministry, that you actually formed me and shaped me, that now I'm a pastor. I was inspired by what you did because you invested in me. So I agree with you. I think it's so important that as a pastor, as a leader, you know, even just as a youth leader, maybe you don't have the title of pastor, but as a youth leader, the inspiration that you give to your sheep, to your youth, it's so crucial. I like that you talked about that. One of the things that you had said a little while ago, and again, I wrote it down and I thought it was so perfect, is, you know, when you were first launching into your ministry, you were first a leader with Raymond. You had said that you weren't considering, you know, you weren't even considering praying because you were comfortable where you were at. And I wrote down, stay safe, you know, and it's so easy as people that are in the Jonah movement, it's so easy to stay in that boat because it's safe. Yeah. You know, what in once again, investing, this is, this is where I think that you're really good at it, investing. What is one piece of advice you would give someone that right now is comfortable staying in the boat because it's safe?
When I when I was, or before I started working where I am now, which is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I had always told the Lord that I wanted more. And it had been years and years that I had told the Lord, I want more. There has to be more to ministry than what's going on in my life right now. And it was going great. I mean, beautiful services, worship in church, and everything was great, But I had always told the Lord, there has to be more. There has to be more. And at the time, I was already in my late 40s, and so a lot of people think, you're comfortable. You're comfortable. You're safe. You're comfortable. You're towards the end of ministry, or going in that ending of ministry. You're not in your 20s or 30s, where you're like, oh yeah. But I wanted more, and I had just been telling the Lord that I had wanted more and more and more. It just of ministry, and it wasn't until I went and they asked me to speak at a Fields of Faith, which is an FCA event there in Farm. And the Lord put into my heart about preaching exactly of what you just said about Peter and the boat. And taking that step of faith, taking that leap of faith, and walking out to the unknown.
Yeah, I remember
walking out into something that is out of your comfort zone, out of the safeness of the boat. Even though there's a storm or waves and everything around, but still you're safe in the boat. You're safe. The Jonah movement, you're safe underneath. Nothing's gonna harm you. Nothing. And it's not until you have that encounter with Christ that causes that safeness to stir up in you to step out of the boat. Because it wasn't until Jesus came and appeared in front of them that Peter decided, hey, I'm going to go and take that step of faith. If Jesus would have never had that encounter with them at the moment, Peter would have never stepped out of the boat. And I think that Peter would have never been in the place that he was if Jesus had not appeared at that time. So Jesus appeared at that time. So I had to step out. I had to step out to the unknown, to the uncomfortable, to the uneasy, so anybody that maybe is in that comfort zone and is in that safe zone of maybe in their life, or if there's a calling, or maybe just, it doesn't have to be pulpit ministry. It could just be anything for that matter. One of the things that I'll always say is that we don't see the big picture. Jesus is the one that sees the big picture. He's the one that has painted this whole scenario in front of us. He is the artist that has put everything in the canvas, and he knows the outcome. We see the here and now. And that young man or young lady is maybe just seeing the here and now and not seeing the outcome. But this is where we have to have that encounter with Jesus Christ and look at him and tell him, help my unbelief. Help me to be able to step out of this boat. Because if you realize that nobody ever is ever recorded to have walked on water other than Peter.
Yeah.
Nobody. Other than Jesus. But Peter was the only one ever recorded in the Bible that has walked on water. May not have been for a long time. But at least he has bragging rights to say, hey, I walked on water. I walked on stinking water. So I'm not saying that we're all going to walk on water, but there are going to be times that we're going to sink and that we're going to feel like we're sinking. But Jesus always has his hands, extended out to be able to get us out of there. So I say, step out of the boat. Step out of the boat. Give the Lord the chance to be able to show you what he has orchestrated so that he can show you the progress. There's going to be pain in the progress, but he's going to show you the progress as you go along. We may not see it right now, but we'll see it as we go along and in our journey.
Yeah. I like that. And I've always loved the story of of Peter walking on water, because there's two characters in this story. The disciples are all in the boat at the same time, and they all experience Jesus. You know, they're all around them is this storm, this chaos, this craziness, this confusion. There's so much happening inside, and they all at the same time experience Jesus. But it's only Peter. It was only Peter that experienced Jesus and said, "Take me out of my comfort zone." All the other disciples, that's the second character. All the other disciples, they stayed back. They were comfortable. They saw this boat. They saw the chaos around. They saw the boat, and they said, "You know what? We're called to ministry, but right now this is safe."
Yeah.
And I feel that a lot of times, brand new Bible school students, people that aren't even in Bible school yet, people that are, they have the calling in their heart. They know it. They've been called. They've had their pulpit ministry experience where the pastor points them out and says, you're going to be a pastor. You're going to be an evangelist. You're going to be a missionary. They have that moment. They know the calling, but it's so much safer to just stay in the boat and say,
yeah,
I just want to experience Jesus. I'm not ready to step out yet. And I like that you really illustrated that with not just what you said, but just in your life in general. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I can speak from experience for myself. You know, there's going to be moments where you think you have it all figured out. You have the whole thing planned out. You have this schedule. You have all these ideas. And, you know, I always say that God has a sense of humor, because when you have everything planned in your head, and you have even maybe on paper, God can easily just step in and say, "All right, well, let's see how you do with this." And then he just shakes it up. He just shakes up your life, and he says, "Okay, now figure it out."
Yeah, now figure it out. Yeah, he does.
You know, but I always love hearing your story, and I always love hearing, you know, where you've come from and what you've done, and you know, and you know, one thing that I always like to look at whenever I hear people's story is, you know, what was and, you know, and this is where I want to kind of conclude with you with you know, this little interview. Looking back at your past and looking back at all the things that you've gone through, from, you know, being in Bible school, being at Robstown as just one of the youth, you know, going back to Robstown as now the youth pastor, you know, to the youth pastorship that you had in Uvalde, the youth pastorship that you had in Mission, the youth pastor even that you were here for like the longest time, you know, the youth pastor that you were here in Bethel, you know, and then now the situation, or the place that you're in now, where you're with FCA, and you're also the Texas Gulf District Youth Director. What was the one thing that helped propel you forward into the direction that you are right now? What was that one situation that just helped you launch forward and say, "Okay, this is where I'm going"?
That's a super good question, because there's so many situations that I could choose that could say, you know, that propelled me to go forward. But I think that what helped me to go forward was the example that my dad left. The example and the conversations that I had with my dad, that I remember growing up, and you know, I was in high school, and I would come home for lunch, and all of a sudden we had a stranger sitting at our table, you know, eating lunch with our family. You know, I was like, okay, who is this person? You know, and my mom was cooking, you know, and was making and giving whatever it was, you know, to either that or I would be eating lunch at home, and then and my dad would come in and he says, "I want you to serve me this, or make some sandwiches, make like 10 sandwiches." And my mom, you know, never complained, and she said, "Okay." So she's making sandwiches. I was like, man, my dad must really be hungry. And but little did I know that he was feeding a family. in the fellowship hall at the church. He was
Wow.
feeding somebody that had come out of prison, because my dad used to do prison ministry for a long time. And I remember even going with him when I was already a youth pastor and going into doing prison ministry with him. So I see all of those things. I see all of the opportunities that my dad gave, because those were things. Even when I went to Robstown, my dad invested in me to be able to come in. Everybody that I've worked under has given me that opportunity and has invested time in me to be able to do that. But seeing my dad and the love and the passion that he had for the calling, it wasn't until right before he passed, that I was sitting in his room, and this was maybe about a year before he passed. I was sitting in his room, and he said, and because my dad, I would hear him pray all the time, and there was this little spot next to his bed, and I'm sitting there with him, and he says, and he's looking at that spot, and he tells me, if you only knew what the Lord tells me in this spot. And I would look at him and I was like, well, tell me tell me what he tells you. I want to know. And then he looks and he just kind of laughs and smiles, and he says, of those things you don't know those things. He says, because if you have to ask me to tell you, it's because you've never experienced them. Oof. And I'm like, and that's because I was already a youth pastor. I was already a youth pastor there at Bethel when he told me that. And so sometimes when you feel like you know a whole lot, you really don't know anything. When you feel like you've gained it, you haven't gained anything. There's still way more. So those things are the things that propel me, because that has taken me to where I'm at now, is that we have a lot of work to do. That the Bible says that we are pouring out, but we're not finished yet. We're pouring out to people, but we're not finished yet. Jesus has, and God has, a whole lot more that we have to give to others, that we have to invest in others, that the calling that he has placed in our lives is not until the end, when he comes or when he just takes us to go. So that's what propels me to go forward, is that we have a lot more work to do, a lot more people to feed, a lot more people to share with, a lot more people that want to just, for us to listen to them, and just need a whole lot of love. It just needs somebody just to pat them on the back and say, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay. A lot of people just to say, can you pray with me? And you're not going to say, yeah, I'll pray with you, but you forget. But at that moment, you pray with them, and they're going to feel a difference in their life immediately. Those are the things that propel me to go forward.
That's awesome. That's so well. Thank you. I know you're extremely busy. You may not be going out and about because you're stuck at home, and we have quarantine and everything. But I do appreciate this time that you took, and it's always I've heard all your stories ever since I was a little kid. But every time I hear them, I just sit there and I just take it in, and I love it. I really appreciate this moment and this opportunity that you've taken out of your time. And just real quick, what's going on right now with you? What are some of the things that you're doing? Where are some of the things that, or some of the places that people will be able to maybe see you or contact with you in?
Right now, basically, I'm surrounded a lot with my work, which is with FCA. We're not going to schools because obviously school is out, but a lot changed for us. Even when the quarantine happened, which was right before spring break. So it's been that long since spring break. And so I miss the coaches, and I miss the students, and I miss going into schools and stuff. But, this opened up a whole lot of things, not just for FCA, but I think for churches and ministers to be able to, because now everybody in the world was doing online, either through Zoom, either through Facebook, or whatever other kind of social media that is going on. So that has opened up a lot for us in FCA to be able to connect through Zoom, connect through social media. And I know that within connecting with some coaches and students we're able to have huddles through Zoom, through Google Classroom, and through just so many other venues. And so those are things that are going on right now as far as my job is concerned. So we're excited for what the summer holds. And for I think we're stepping out into the unknown right now.
Yeah.
Even in our own personal lives and in our own ministry lives, we're stepping out into the unknown. And but I think that this brings a very big spiritual awakening into our hearts and into our lives, that there's a whole lot more to do. And I think because, and I don't mean to go back into what we were talking about, but I think we were in that safe zone, just kind of going through the routine and through the motions of things. But this is where God kind of stirs us up and says, hey, wake up, step out of the boat and step out into the unknown.
Yeah.
And I think that even in our own lives, we're going to have to step out into the unknown, and God's going to show us greater things, that he's going to show us that big picture that I talked about earlier. And so I look forward to what God has in store for us, and also for our Texas Gulf Youth Ministries. I've been a part of some Zoom calls with some kids, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Have had good opportunities to be able to minister and just to be a part of them. We had a Zoom call with Temple Emmanuel Youth Ministries in Crystal City, where Arnie Casas was the guest speaker on that day, and it was a Speed the Light Zoom call. So I had a great time there, and there's just so many youth ministries out there that I'm so proud of. All of them. I'm proud of all of them, and hard work that they've been doing. And just to say that I'm really, really proud of them, and proud to be their leader. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you for
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for taking your time and actually sharing with us. And once again, like you do every time I talk to you, inspiring me and motivating me and pushing me in a direction that normally would have taken me longer to get there. But, your words just really resonated in my heart. And I really, hear, what God is calling me and the direction that God is calling. This was just motivation just to keep going forward.
Sure. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for the steps that you're taking. When you shared with me this new unknown that you're stepping into, you're stepping into the unknown. So I think that I'm proud of the steps that you're taking. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't, because the Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So you keep on going. You keep on going. The pain is going to be there, but there's going to be progress. You're going to see it. You just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. You be faithful to the Lord. Be faithful to your kids, your church, your wife, everybody that is around you. And you'll see that there's going to be a whole lot of progress, lot of progress. And I'll be praying for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
All right. So we'll see you later.
Okay. Bye, mijo.